The morning the single dad walked into his boss's office holding a resignation letter, nobody in that building knew the real reason he had turned down every single woman who ever asked him out for 3 straight years, and by the time he finished explaining it, his boss was crying at her own desk. It started on a Tuesday like any other. The single dad worked as a warehouse supervisor at a shipping company in Ohio, the kind of steady job that paid the bills but never made headlines. He was quiet, respectful, always early, always the last to leave. The women in the office noticed him. He was kind, he had a gentle laugh, and everyone could see the way his eyes softened whenever someone mentioned children. But whenever anyone tried to get close to him, he found a polite way to step back. After a while, people stopped trying. They just assumed he wasn't interested in love anymore. His boss, a woman named Diane, had watched this pattern for 3 years. She liked him. Not romantically, but as someone who genuinely cared about her employees. She noticed how he never joined the office parties, how he rushed home the second his shift ended, how his phone background was a photo of a little girl with missing front teeth and messy pigtails. Diane had a soft spot for that kind of quiet devotion, and it worried her that a good man like him seemed to be closing himself off from happiness. One afternoon, after a coworker named Patricia asked him to dinner, and he gently declined again, Diane finally called him into her office. She wasn't trying to pry. She just couldn't understand why a man so kind, so hardworking, so clearly lonely at times, kept pushing away every chance at companionship. "Can I ask you something personal?" Diane said, closing the door behind him. "Sure," the single dad answered, standing near the doorway like he already sensed where this was going. "Why won't you date?" she asked. "You're a good man. Any woman would be lucky to have you. But you shut every door before it even opens." The single dad looked down at his hands for a long moment. His jaw tightened, like he was deciding whether to let the truth out or keep hiding it the way he always did. "It's not that I don't want love," he said quietly. "It's that I'm scared of what love might cost my daughter." Diane's expression softened. She hadn't expected an answer that heavy. He continued, his voice shaking just slightly. "Her mother left when she was 2. Just packed a bag one night and never came back. My daughter doesn't remember her, but I do. I remember trying to explain to a 2-year-old why Mommy wasn't coming home. I remember rocking her to sleep every night because she woke up crying, feeling like something was missing even though she couldn't understand what." Diane's throat tightened. She hadn't known this history. He had never talked about it before. "So now," he said, "every time someone shows interest in me, all I can think about is, what if she gets attached? What if she finally lets someone new into her heart, and then that person leaves too? I can survive heartbreak. I don't know if she can survive another one." The room went silent. Diane didn't know what to say. She had asked a simple question expecting a simple answer, but instead she had opened a door into a father's silent sacrifice that nobody in the office had ever seen. "She's 7 now," he added. "And every night she asks me the same question. 'Daddy, why don't you have anyone that loves you the way you love me?' And I never know how to answer her without breaking my own heart." Diane felt her eyes sting. She had 2 grown children of her own, and she remembered the fear of doing right by them, but she had never imagined the weight this man carried every single day, silently, while still showing up to work smiling like everything was fine. "You're allowed to be loved too," Diane said gently. "You know that, right?" The single dad gave a small, sad smile. "I used to believe that. But every time I get close to someone, I remember the day my daughter cried herself to sleep, and I can't risk that happening to her again. I'd rather be alone forever than watch her get hurt one more time." Diane sat back in her chair, stunned by the depth of a man she thought she understood. For 3 years she had assumed his silence was pride, or shyness, or simply disinterest. She never imagined it was pure, protective love, quietly breaking him apart. That night, the single dad drove home replaying the conversation in his head. He hadn't planned on revealing that much. He wondered if he had made a mistake, if his boss would now look at him differently, maybe with pity instead of respect. He walked into his small apartment, and his daughter ran to him the second the door opened. "Daddy! I made you a picture," she said, holding up a crayon drawing of the two of them holding hands under a bright yellow sun. He knelt down and hugged her tightly, his heart aching with love so strong it almost hurt. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," he whispered. "Can we hang it on the fridge?" she asked. "Of course we can." As he pinned the drawing up, she tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, are you sad?" He turned to her, surprised. "Why would you think that?" "Your eyes look tired," she said simply, the way only children can see straight through adults. He forced a smile. "I'm okay, baby. Just a long day." But that night, after she fell asleep, he sat at the kitchen table and let himself cry, quietly, the way fathers do when they don't want their children to hear. 2 days later, Diane called him back into her office. He assumed it was about work, but instead, she slid a folded piece of paper across the desk. "I want you to read this," she said. He unfolded it. It was a letter, written by his coworker Patricia. She had heard, through the grapevine, part of what he shared with Diane, and instead of being offended that he had turned her down, she had written him a letter expressing something unexpected. She understood. Her own younger brother had raised his son alone after losing his wife, and she knew the quiet exhaustion, the invisible sacrifices, the constant fear of choosing wrong for a child who trusted you completely. The letter ended with words that hit him harder than he expected. "You don't have to choose between loving your daughter and being loved yourself. A good woman won't ask you to choose. She'll want to be part of both." He looked up at Diane, confused. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because," Diane said gently, "sometimes the bravest thing a father can do isn't shutting the door to protect his child. It's opening it carefully, slowly, and trusting that love, real love, doesn't hurt the people we love most. It heals them." The single dad sat there in silence, the letter trembling slightly in his hands. Weeks passed. He didn't rush into anything. But he allowed himself something he hadn't allowed in years: small conversations, coffee breaks, a slow friendship with Patricia that neither of them forced into anything more than it needed to be. His daughter, curious as ever, noticed the change in her father, the way his laugh came easier, the way he hummed while making breakfast. One Saturday, Patricia joined them for a simple afternoon at the park. She didn't try to be anyone's replacement. She simply sat beside his daughter, helped her build a sandcastle, laughed at her jokes, and let the relationship grow naturally, without pressure, without expectations. That evening, as they walked back to the car, his daughter looked up at him and asked the question that changed everything. "Daddy, is Miss Patricia going to keep coming to the park with us?" He knelt down to her level. "Would you like that?" She nodded excitedly. "She's really nice. And she didn't leave when the sandcastle fell down. She just helped me build it again." His chest tightened with emotion. That one sentence, spoken so innocently by a 7-year-old, held more wisdom than he had gathered in years of fear. He realized then that love wasn't about avoiding pain. It was about choosing people who stayed, even when things fell apart, even when life got messy, even when sandcastles crumbled in the sand. A year later, Diane attended a small backyard wedding, nothing fancy, just close friends, warm lights strung across the yard, and laughter filling the air. The single dad stood at the altar, no longer carrying the same heaviness in his eyes. His daughter stood beside him as the flower girl, beaming with pride, scattering petals like she was scattering away every ounce of fear that once lived in their home. When Diane hugged him afterward, she whispered, "I told you. Love doesn't take away from a child. It multiplies." He smiled, eyes glistening. "You didn't just ask me a question that day. You gave me permission to hope again." The lesson in this story is simple but powerful. Protecting the people we love doesn't always mean shutting out the world. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is allowing your heart to heal, so the ones who depend on you can witness what real, lasting love looks like. A father's silent sacrifice is beautiful, but it doesn't have to be lonely. And sometimes, the right person doesn't replace what was lost. They simply help you build something new, one gentle moment at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a comment to share your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Wings of Kindness for more inspiring stories. Remember, even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life forever.